Right now, as we speak, Bitcoin is facing a little bit of trouble. And I've actually stated this throughout the last couple of weeks, that 72,000 is such an important threshold for Bitcoin, and that even though it's not been broken for a little while, and right now we are dumping ever so slightly, that the S&P pushing through, I personally believe, will actually also make Bitcoin cross the path. And a lot of you guys were wondering, hey, what exactly can the FOMC that's coming out in what, a day and 7 hours or something like that, what type of effect can it have? And so, 1 day and 11 hours. So I'll quickly describe. As you guys all know, about every month they give us a little update on the interest rate. There are some predictions out there as well for what it's going to be. And whoa, damn. All right. And as it currently stands, we've got ourselves an actual very, very interesting day. No way. I didn't even know this stat. With the inflation rate coming out at roughly 4 p.m. Dubai time, and then the interest rate coming out at 10 p.m. Okay, so this is not as common. I forgot this is actually going to happen. Today we actually have an extra, so I should not say today, it's tomorrow, but we have an extra important day as we got both of these announcements in the same day. Interest rate, I'd say, is the more important one, as it obviously is there to help change the inflation rate. But anyway, currently the inflation rate year over year is 3.4%, and they're expecting it to stay at 3.4. If you see any deviance from the 3.4 number, expect the markets to take some action. When it comes to interest rate, quite similarly right now at 5.5. If it does not stay at 5.5 but it deviates, expect the market to take a little bit of a shocker. And by the way, I always, perhaps I'm going to be live streaming it, but I always join this press conference that is also there in the evening, because usually they give some insights on policy. And usually things are pretty volatile at that point as well still. But anyway, both of these announcements usually are able to cause a little bit of a ruckus in different indices, and perhaps also in Bitcoin. Not every time, but most of the time at least it does some kind of crazy move. And now I'd say it was a little bit more relevant a few hours ago when we were basically deciding the move. Right now we actually got rejected at that $72,000-ish mark and have broken down. Right now we are back at this basic bottom ledge, so to speak. But even if we go a significant amount lower, if you start looking at the pattern here, it's not outside of any realm of logic. We still have got a little bit more downward to go before I'd consider this to be somewhat scary. And I know this scares many people, these crazy dump cycles. But once more, remember last year where Solana dumped from $16.50 to $15. A year later, look at where we are. And I think Loomdart also had some interesting words here. You're all cowards. Seriously. You see a post about ETF flows, something fundamental to the current Bitcoin market dynamics, and you do not dedicate every ounce of your being to figure it out. You put your head in the sand. Meanwhile, I've spent the last 60 hours researching every possible CME NYSE cross-collateralization strategy. I've spoken to prime brokers. I have calculated so many freaking different variability bases that I think I may commit. I've compared historic OI delta, which is open interest by the way, of prior price rises to current delta, but I'm still not satisfied. I've spent hundreds of dollars on educational textbooks on funding and basis rates, shipped from an Uzbekistani economics student. I've consulted with every person in my contact list that is even remotely connected to market making. Half of them are in jail. Do you know how painful prison pocketing a calculator is? And I think his whole story here is actually quite important, mostly from the perspective of we just don't know how important these Bitcoin ETFs are. We can't really compare it to gold. We can't really compare it to anything else because gold, for example, took so much more time to get actual, volume, I should say, the TVL in their ETF. But also it's slightly different because we had Grayscale already here, which obviously transferred over into ETF, which is why they have such outflows because of their massive fees, which obviously is inflows again for BlackRock. What I will tell you guys again though is that just a few weeks ago, Bitcoin made a move to what, 56 or so thousand. And again, ladies and gentlemen, even if you are fully into altcoins, whatever happens to Bitcoin is relevant for you as it dictates where altcoins go. Right now, Bitcoin is slightly bearish, so altcoins face some bigger troubles. Anyway, so just a few weeks ago, Bitcoin went to 57,000. When I looked at the comments, the majority of people were saying, man, this is it, the bull run is over. And that's mostly because people get scared too easily nowadays. I personally think, yeah, there is some slight downwards pressure, and there is a little bit of room for some further downward movement, let's call it. But I ask you now, is that bad? If our conviction is straight, and if we understand, like I just described, a little bit of the ETF thesis, which is these guys are not buying for one cycle, these guys are increasing their buying, it's going somewhat exponential, especially if you disregard GBTC. We all know their next move is going to be Ethereum. We all know Ethereum moves with the ETF rolling are being made. And we all know if the ETFs for Ethereum come over, there's almost no chance we won't be at higher prices than we are at today. So what I think we're currently facing is a slight test of conviction, because a lot of people will sell here and think, you know what, the bull run is over, canceled, etc. And I'll tell you one thing where we can kind of like diverge in opinions. And that is when it comes to, for example, the 2021 run. For example, this time span here, right, from May 2021 all the way towards November of 2021. Some might say, oh, you should have sold here and bought the dip, something like that. What if I told you now, even if you were holding Bitcoin right here, or holding your altcoins, whatever, right here, because this is obviously where altcoins really flourished, but let's say you were holding it right here, didn't sell it at this bottom, didn't sell it towards the bottom. You just held it from here on forward out. Yes, it would have been a couple months of being quite annoying, but ultimately you'd have gotten back into profit, let's say, 6 or so months from there. Now, again, if we were smart investors and we bought the top, ooh, no, but we bought lower. We bought lower, and then our final buys were, for example, here at $30,000. So in this case here, we've got 60, 50, 40, and 30. If we increased our buys, our average price could now be roughly at 40,000. If we had equal buys, our average price would be roughly at 45. So still quite good, I'd say. Anyway, so you understand, then from there on forward, from our $40,000 mark, we would have been up roughly 72%, and with leverage that we usually use, this could have been a 700% profit trade. Yes, it would have cost us something in funding fees, but I think it would have been worth it. And the reason I know that, ladies and gentlemen, is hopefully because you all remember that a very long time ago, we opened ourselves a position for Bitcoin at what, 28,000. And now you look at this and you're like, oh, Dusty, this position to keep it open has cost you $2,000. But for fun, you can see here that the last time I could have opened this was October of 2023. Now, I in my head have kind of decided I'm going to perhaps like keep it open forever. It's not smart, but it's just kind of fun to keep a position open for a longer period of time. So it's costing me thousands of dollars to keep this open, sure. But then look at the profit. We're $18,500 in profit right now. And I think actually, guys, that throughout time it's cost me more. And that's why this position has gone down from half a Bitcoin to slightly less. Because I think we put in $1,500 at some point. But again, just to give you guys an understanding, if we had bought from the top all the way down and gotten our average price to roughly 30,000 throughout, for example, somewhere in 2022, we got ourselves a nice bottom in November of 2022. So at the end of 2023, our position would have been stacked up and juicy. Perhaps our average price would have then been, 20,000 instead of 28, and then the gains would have been way more severe. But even now, at that point, it could have been like almost double in terms of the gains. So it would have definitely outdone your fees. But it also proves that if you just have the conviction, a $1,000 position can definitely make you hundreds of thousands if done at the right time. Because in this case, I only use 7 or 10x leverage. Normally, I actually use slightly more. But also, again, if we had more conviction, we bought down lower or slightly earlier. This could have been at least double. And perhaps with some more leverage, it could have been even double that. So then our $1,300 or so could have been about, let's call it $80,000 in the span of what? A year and a half? Something like that. Something like that. So again, a link for Bybit is down below. Don't believe it's not possible. And once more, in my head, a worst case scenario is that we have some slight downtime. I'm just preparing. I'm not thinking that's going to happen. I'm just saying, what if, right? Because I don't believe the bull market's canceled. I don't believe we're in this period yet where it's kind of annoying to keep positions open, because this is a long ass time. This time though here, no, I don't think it's that bad. I think we have roughly 3 months or so of pain more to go before we kind of are at the levels of back then. Yeah. Anyway, that's my thinking process throughout it all. I'm just basically preparing myself for whatever happens by making sure if we go down lower and lower, that I stack it up and buy the dip, but especially as we get below 60,000 or so, that's where I get excited. Right now, still just mostly waiting it out, seeing what's going to happen. Just a few more things. One is that I just noticed ZK Sync is to airdrop 3.6 billion ZK tokens next week. So for anybody that was farming, you might be rewarded here. And second of all, there was an exploit of 𝗬𝗓. I think it was an AVA fork. This is already somewhere yesterday, not over the last couple of hours. 𝗬𝗓 falls prey to $20 million flash loan hack. Founder launches 20% bounty to retrieve the funds. And last but not least, there's actually something other that's cool over on Bybit. These are things called structured products. And a lot of people think you can only just trade in a really difficult manner on these exchanges. But let me tell you that there are a lot more cool or interesting products on there than you might realize that could make your life a whole bunch easier. As you guys might know from previous videos, I personally use a couple of bots over on Bybit, OKX, whatever, but I definitely recommend you to just take a little bit of time and look through a couple of options you've got on here, because it can be kind of funny to see all the different things that people are doing out there, all the different things that you can do, and different ways to speculate on the market, or potentially just literally to buy Bitcoin, crypto at a discount. It's literally that. But there's also other cool things, up to 200x leverage with no liquidation before settlement. You have to take a look at it though before you dabble in it, but it's just fun that there are different options that many people don't realize. Again, if you're wondering, this is like the structured products. So over on the top, if you're using the web version, and there's a little button that says structured products, check it out if you've not done it yet. Ladies and gentlemen, that's about it.